Welcome into your Friday edition of Bet. I'm your host, Anita Marks, and we are going to get you locked and loaded for some college football. Also, big announcement with the Colts. Anthony Richardson will be their starting quarterback week 1. So Stephen Holder is going to join us. He covers the Colts. But first, we're going to kick it off with Bill Connelly, one of our best college football writers here at ESPN. Let's dive into it. So, Bill, welcome in to Bet. Excited to have you on this afternoon. We like to kick off Friday's show with the good word. And we're talking college football, so you're going to fit right in. Let's talk LSU 3-1 to make the college football playoff. What's your good word?
Tuscaloosa. They have to go to Tuscaloosa. And that means they probably will have to win all their other games if they're going to be able to make the college football playoff. That feels pretty shaky to me. I'm not real sure. I like LSU as a top 5 or 10 team, but it's going to be pretty low margin for error here.
All right, so my good word is roar. Sign me up, right? Like Brian Kelly coming into his second season. So he's already got that first year transition issues, getting, used to the organizational culture, changing universities and whatnot. He's kind of established his groove, his way. Love me some Jaden Daniels. I'm expecting over 3,000 passing yards, 1,000 rushing yards. I think he'll be in the topic of conversation for potentially winning the Heisman, and arguably one of the best defensive players in college football in Perkins. So I think they check all the boxes, and I think they can be uber competitive. And I think there's a really good chance. So at 3-1, yeah, roar, baby. I'm going to play that wager. Let's talk about Caleb Williams. A lot of people feel that he's going to win the Heisman this year. He is favored. Passing prop, over under 36.5, 3,600.5 passing yards. What's your good word?
4,600 is I guess that's a couple of words really, but that's about how high you'd have to set the bar for me to take the under. I think it's, he was at 44, 45 last year. Obviously he could get hurt. Obviously, maybe they don't make the Pac-12 title game and that's a one less game, but that feels pretty low to me. I would have to get it a lot higher before I start thinking about saying no to that.
Yeah, absolutely. My good word is over, right? Passed for over 4,500 yards last year, 42 touchdowns. He's got even new and exciting weapons. Everybody wants to jump in that transfer portal and head to USC, right, to play for Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. So no love lost there in regard to the plethora of weapons that he's going to be working with. Singer alone, his wide receiver Singer alone, I'm expecting to have over 1,000 yards. So I'm with you. I think the over is the play here. I'm actually a little shocked that it is this low. Last but not least, Notre Dame, 20-1 to have an undefeated season. What's your good word?
My good word is no. I think this is going to be a good team. I think they should be able to top last year's win total, but only to like 10, something like that. They still have to host Ohio State. They have to play at Clemson. And then they have to also avoid any number of upsets against a top 30-ish, 40-ish team, at NC State, at Duke, at Louisville. That's a lot. I think 10-2, 11-1 is probably the ceiling here, and I feel pretty good about 9-3 or 10-2. I definitely don't feel good about 12-0 or better.
Well, my good word is odds. I'm going to play it just because I think the odds at 20-1. Why not? Yeah. I throw $5 on it. It wins. Mama's got a new pair of shoes, right? I mean, come on. Head coach Freeman coming in, again, same philosophy with Kelly, right? Coming in, it's his second year. You got Hartman, who came over in that transfer portal, really put on a show coming over from Wake. Good offensive line, solid defense. Their 3 top games are going to be against OSU, USC, and at Clemson. So in regard to their schedule, those would be the 3 games. I think if they're able to win those 3 games, I think there's a good shot that they could go undefeated. Again, I'm going to play it just because of the odds at 20-1. And while we're talking about Notre Dame, let's talk about week 0, right? It is fast approaching. Notre Dame going up against Navy. Notre Dame is favored at 20.5. The over-under is at 50. How are you playing this one?
Yeah, I kind of like Notre Dame and the under here. This is a tricky one, and obviously anytime you're betting on a service academy with a new quarterback and lots of potential unknowns, new head coach and lots of potential unknowns, that makes you a little hesitant because who hasn't been bitten by betting on a service academy to get blown out or something. But my SP Plus ratings, I'll just lean on those right now. It says Notre Dame by 32. Navy has a lot of rebuilding to do here, and something in the 38 to 7-ish kind of neighborhood feels about right to me, which would tell me Notre Dame in the under.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to lay the points with Notre Dame. Navy almost upset Notre Dame last year, right? That 35-32 score, but they also have 17 starters coming back, but a new head coach. Meanwhile, Notre Dame, they have 15 starters coming back. And like I said, that QB transfer, Sam Hartman, 38 touchdowns at Wake the last 2 seasons. So hopefully he could pick up where he left off at Wake for Notre Dame, and I will lay the points. Another week 0 game is San Jose State going against USC. An even bigger line here. USC laying 30. The over-under is 64.5. What's your play?
Yeah, I like. I know I like USC. I've gone back and forth. I don't think I have a good play on the over/under. It could come in right at that 63-64 mark, but I like USC by more like 35 or 38. Jevin Cordero for San Jose State. We should learn a lot about USC's defense, and that's obviously the number one question about USC heading into this year and whether they have top 5 or top 10 potential, but I just don't see them ever stopping USC. If Caleb Williams is out there for 4 quarters, they're going to score a heck of a lot of points, and I assume they get this done by more like 35.
I'm going over here, right? Like USC offense, I think they want to make a statement week 1. Again, Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, he wants to win the Heisman. And really, their offense is what stirs the drink. Defensively, 81st in scoring, 199th in opponents' yards per play. And it's not like their defense went out and got exponentially better. So I've got some big concerns about this USC defense this season. But I think the offense could come out and put up a ton. Do like the over here. Let's take a look at some of the week 1 games we can look forward to, and that's University of Florida going against Utah. Utah favored by 7. The over-under's 46. What are you looking here in week 1?
This is one where I'm going against my numbers twice. My SP Plus ratings say Utah by about 8 points and definitely take the over. My numbers don't know that Cam Rising's status is completely up in the air right now, and that makes a humongous difference. His backup might be hurt too, and I just don't trust Utah at all in this situation. I think they can still grind out a win. They're still very, very physical, and they still have a lot to offer in that regard. But if Cam Rising isn't 100%, I don't see this game going over. And so I'll take Florida in the under. Feel better about Florida than the under, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you on the under. By the way, Cameron Rising, what a great name. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Coming off of that ACL, still no word whether or not he's going to be active and attractive week 1. Richard not starting in Florida, but it was announced this week he is going to be starting in Indianapolis with the Colts. That's for sure. New defensive coordinator for University of Florida, Austin Armstrong. A lot of buzz about him, only 30 years old, but bringing a lot of feistiness to that Gators defense. So I'm on the under here as well. Let's take a look at Colorado and TCU. TCU favored by 20.5. The over-under's at 59.5. A lot of storylines here, right?
Yeah, just a couple. This is, again, I'm talking a lot about projections and numbers and stuff. Colorado is an unprojectable team. I can talk about recent history. Well, nobody on this team was on any other Colorado team. Deion Sanders pretty much wiped the slate clean, and we have really no idea what they have to offer. But I'm just going to set this up as a challenge here. My numbers do say more like TCU by 26. I'd say 21 to 24 sounds pretty good. I am going to take the under just because it's really high. But I could see something like a 41 to 14 or 17 kind of deal here, which would put us just a little bit under and would have TCU covering.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on this game because, again, so many interesting storylines. Deion Sanders, now the new head coach at Colorado, his son, the quarterback, can recruit like nobody's business. Interested to see what team he's going to be able to coach, how feisty they're going to be playing for Deion Sanders. And then TCU losing so much talent, right? Their quarterback first-round drafted wide receiver. So I'm going to sit back. I want to see how this game, I'm definitely going to be tuning in, but I can't say I'm going to put my hard-earned money on this matchup. Last but not least, let's go LSU going up against Florida State. Two highly touted teams, hefty expectations this season. LSU favored by 2.5. The over-under is 56.5. Do you have a play here?
I'm starting to realize I hate fun. I'm picking all the unders, and I'm going to do it again here. This is, I think I trust LSU a little bit more in this game. I might not trust them to make the playoff necessarily, but I do think this is probably more like LSU by 4 to 6. Florida State just really has a lot to prove on defense, especially up front, and I like what LSU has to offer just from an efficiency and ball hogging standpoint. So I figured they keep it under. This is something in the 28-24 neighborhood, but I do feel pretty comfortable about the under, and I like LSU.
Yeah, I'm going LSU here as well. I'm really big on Perkins. I can't wait to see him play. He definitely gives quarterbacks and offensive lines fits. We saw it last season. I think he locks and reloads this season. And FSU is really going to have to be committed to running the ball, and they're going to have to be able to run the ball effectively to keep LSU's defense and Perkins honest. If they cannot, I think this could be a track meet, which I think FSU is not going to be able to stay lockstep with LSU. So I am leaning towards LSU. I will lay the 2.5. Before we let you go, we gotta talk about the Heisman, right? Big expectation this season for Caleb Williams. As we know, nobody's won back-to-back in regard to the Heisman Trophy since Archie Griffin did it back in 1975. But he is expected, he is favored to win it. What are your thoughts? Do you think Caleb can repeat?
I don't know if he can repeat, but I love plus 550. I was worried it was going to be, minus 200 or something crazy. Plus 550, he's got a better than 20% chance at this. Therefore, the odds are on his side. And look, I mean, it's kind of funny to say it this way, but USC's defense, if it does improve, and I think it will a little bit, they have Bear Alexander from Georgia, they have Mason Cobb from Oklahoma State. Sadly, the way this all works is, if your team is better, whether it had anything to do with you or not, your odds improve. And so if their defense improves, they make the Pac-12 championship, they don't get blown out in the Pac-12 championship this time, he's going to have a very, very good shot. And I like plus 550 quite a bit.
Okay, so we've been in this situation, this predicament 12 times, right? That we've seen a player have an opportunity to repeat and win the Heisman Trophy back-to-back. So the chances, and again, we haven't seen it happen since 1975 with Archie Griffin. So with that being said, the trend in the likeliness is not very high. So give me a flyer. If it's not Caleb, then who is it? Who do you think can upset the apple cart that is at USC?
Well, if we're looking for the best odds, the most favorable odds, I really, Joe Milton at plus 2,200, Drew Aller at plus 2,500, new quarterbacks for what should be very explosive offenses. That sounds pretty fun, especially Joe Milton. Putting money on Joe Milton, there's nothing more exhilarating than that because it could absolutely backfire on you, but it could also be a lot of fun and pay off. As far as the smartest choice, the most likely number 2, I would probably have to say Georgia's Carson Beck, if only because he is the single most likely player to be starting for a top 5 team at the end of the year. A lot of stuff can happen with these other major jobs, Ohio State, Alabama. We don't quite know if they know who their number 1 is, but Carson Beck sure seems like Georgia's number 1, and Georgia's number 1 in the country, so that's a pretty good combination.
Yeah, listen, for me, it's Drake May. And I know that's going out on a limb because I'm not expecting UNC to blow the doors off of anyone this season. But I do expect Drake May. I mean, last season, passed for over 4,300 yards, 38 touchdowns. He participated in UNC's Pro Day, threw 45 passes. The scouts were there, and not one ball hit the ground. Won ACC Player of the Year last season. He is pro ready. I mean, he is just going to be special. I'll go even one step further. I think he'll be the number 1 pick in next year's NFL draft, right? The competitiveness, protecting the football, processing the game. He's just on such another level. So I'm going to throw some coin on Drake May. Hopefully the voters out there could pay more attention to what we're seeing from him on the football field as opposed to all the players at UNC. Because like I said, I'm not expecting them to blow the doors off of anyone. Bill, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you throughout the college football season.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, let's turn our attention to the NFL. And again, earlier this week, the Colts made the announcement. Anthony Richardson, former quarterback at the University of Florida, drafted number 4 overall in this year's NFL draft, is going to be the Colts starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson were competing for that job. So why at this stage in the game has the Colts decided to go with Anthony Richardson? Stephen Holder, who covers the Colts, clues us in.
Anita, the Colts certainly could have postponed this decision. They have several weeks to go before the regular season. But they thought this was a really unique opportunity to tailor their offense to Anthony Richardson's strengths. And they don't want to waste any time in doing that. These next several weeks, what they'll do is try to sync what they do on offense with his particular strengths. We know he's a great runner. We know he has that big arm on those deep throws. They want to certainly work on his accuracy on some of the intermediate stuff, but really they think there's an opportunity here to really hone in on the details and get him ready for week 1 and put him in optimum position. Overall, this was about taking a player with the higher ceiling over a player with a more predictable outcome, perhaps, in Gardner Minshew. The Colts really understand what Anthony Richardson is, and this is about accentuating what he does well. That's what they're going to do here. That's what they did with Jalen Hurts, or Shane Steichen did with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia as the Eagles offensive coordinator. Now that he's the Colts head coach, his job is to maximize Anthony Richardson in this rookie season.
Steven, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of the futures odds out there. Win total, I'm going under 6.5. Win the division, yeah, not likely. Miss the playoffs, I'm not laying Forts from 450. I'll pass on that, but I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs. Passing yards might be my favorite. I'm going to go under passing yards here. No rushing yard total up yet with the odds makers, but I would go over rushing total. Passing touchdowns, I'll stay away. Offensive rookie of the year, no, don't think he's going to do it either. For a number of reasons. Anthony Richardson is just 21 years old. He's a very raw talent. Played 1 year at the University of Florida, 455 dropbacks against subpar competition at the University of Florida. Out of the 274 qualified quarterbacks that played in college football last year, Anthony Richardson rated 224th out of those 274 in regard to accuracy. How are you going to have that? His completion percentage was 50%. How are you going to be that bad against subpar competition in college football and make your transition to the NFL and perform well? I just don't see it. I think the Colts are going to be a run-heavy offense. That's why I like the over in rushing yards. I'm going to be keeping an eye as to when those hit the books. That's for sure. So that's how I would play the Indianapolis Colts futures now that Anthony Richardson has been appointed their starter. As always, we like to end the show with Before I Let You Go. We've got some preseason action coming your way this weekend. And I've got 3 plays I'm going to throw your way before we let you go onto your fantastic weekend. First and foremost, I like Kansas City. I'm going to lay the points with Kansas City going up against the Cardinals. This is the week that they're going to play their starters. Mahomes is expected to play with his plethora of weapons that he needs to get into a rhythm with. Defensive starters are going to play as well on the Cards. Let's be honest, Colt McCoy, their defense, one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. They have no pass rush, no depth. So I really like Kansas City. Also, just talked about Anthony Richardson. I love the Colts. I'm going to play them in the first half against the Bears. Why? Anthony Richardson needs to play. The Colts are going to be playing a lot of their starters. Meanwhile, the Bears have come out and said that the Bears are not going to be playing their starters. These two teams participated in the joint practice, and the Bears saw enough. So no Justin Fields, a lot of those starters for the Bears, they're going to be sitting, they're not going to be playing. And once Anthony Richardson is done, guess what? Gardner Minshew is next man up. So I like the quarterback depth for the Colts. I'll take the Colts in the first half. And last but not least, the big storyline is the Ravens. Can they win their 25th straight preseason game? They've covered 20 of the 24. I'm playing the Ravens on the money line. At this point, why would you bet against them? If it's not Lamar Jackson, which I don't believe he's going to play, Tyrod Taylor, obviously, Huntley can step in and play that role for him as well. I'm excited to see Forbes go up against Flowers. I think it's going to be chippy. Sam Howell's going to start, obviously, for the Commanders. But at this point, with that trend, how can you bet against the Ravens? I say you don't. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Bet. Really do appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday. Enjoy your weekend and good gambling.